I'll call the meeting to order, and now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, we'll start this meeting up at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, December 9th. And the Pledge of Allegiance. So our new business for tonight is to review and approve 4 sections of the budget. And we'll start with section 4200, Public Safety Building. And so I will make a motion to consider and approve the budget for the Public Safety Building, section 4200, in the Select Board recommended amount of $30,900. Second. Motion by Paul, seconded by Les. It's kind of a shared thing for you guys. Are you, Ben?
It is, I have it.
You're the lead on this one, right?
Need steps, so I'll move around.
So before we start asking questions, is there anything you want to point out to us or ask for any changes? Or
No, I think the big highlights, right, are this is a budget line that last year was new. And we knew going into it, I had a pretty big number in there. That was largely based on the information we got from Farmington. We had a few months in the building. We started to realize those numbers were probably a bit too high. We made some adjustments. So it's further fine tuning everything. The standout really is the electrical line. You know, we knew that we weren't spending a lot in electricity. That remains the case. That number is probably still a little bit high, but I think it's much better than where it was at. So heating's kind of the same way. It's not as significant of a decrease, obviously, but you know, that's really based on, we have 3 1,000 gallon tanks, and so we're not going to see like we used to see at the old buildings where, you know, you're getting 300 or 600 gallons of heating fuel every month or every couple of weeks. And so even though we've spent roughly $5,400 this year, that last fill up was like the October-ish time frame. And so my anticipation is we're not going to make it through the entire heating season before another big fill up. So I feel pretty good about that 8,000 number. Again, it's a reduction from last year. The big increase is the building maintenance, and building maintenance was the same thing. We didn't have firm numbers for some of the maintenance contracts. We didn't know, you know, exactly what some of the heating stuff would be as far as the maintenance and preventative maintenance goes. So that takes we've throughout the year been able to fine tune all of that. You know, it's a bigger building, there's more extinguishers, that contract's higher. The pest end contract's a little bit higher because there's more entries and more traps that they set, or baits that they set out, or however that magic works. We don't have any critters, so that's good. So yeah, and then I would just point to what the spending on the materials line has been. So last year, kind of this time last year, we made a big purchase, and that materials line is largely like paper, toiletry goods. We made a big purchase going into the year. The plan is when the administrative assistant's back from vacation, she's going to do the same thing this year. So we'll have spent that line by the end of the year. It works out really well to do it that way. So yeah, that's about it. I think it's a pretty big reduction, you know, now that we're a little bit, you know, more settled into the building.
okay, but it's still, if you had to say, it's still a little on the conservative side because we're still getting some more data, and we'll see what things look like after another year in the building. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, maybe, you know, depending on what, you know, propane prices do every year is always a thing. Maybe electricity is a little bit lower next year, probably not a lot, but yeah, I think it's a lot closer.
Not if Eversource has anything to say about it.
Well, there is that too, so. Yeah, that's the public safety building.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Go ahead, Scott.
Just for the public watching, that might be new to town also, Chief, do you happen to have the number, or remember what we used to pay between the two buildings and what we are actually saving now? Because we're talking, about decline settling in, but we
Yeah.
are seeing huge efficiencies in the overall budget from, say, 2 years ago, when we had budgeted both buildings.
Yeah, so I mean, just the fire station alone, we were, I wanna say the last year we were in there, we had 26,000, maybe a little bit more than that budgeted for heating and electric. So I meant to bring those numbers with me.
So
I think when
Okay.
I first, kind of when we were pitching the building and talking about it, I went with like a 60%, right? We would be at 60% of our energy costs, and we're probably closer to 40%. I think we're even down into the 30% of what we were spending between the two buildings, so.
I think that it's good that you pointed out, I don't particularly want to, but if you insist, if we want to, this will be the last year. Those numbers are still in the police and fire. They're zeroed out this year, but there's still the 23 actual spend in the sheet if you wanted the exact number.
Yeah.
But
No,
to your
I'm
point,
good. Yeah, no, I
to your point, we expected to save money, but we're doing even
It's
better
just
than
a
we were
talking
planning
point,
on.
let educated people.
2023 you can't go by though because they were not in their building. They were only in the building for a couple of months. We were charging them for a year.
I know, but the fire would be,
Yeah.
The fire would be, so 2022, they had,
we'd have to go and do some
Yeah.
research. That's not on any of our documents that we currently have. But that information is, I just wanted to be clear, you're
Yeah.
not looking for an exact number. You just
No.
want to make sure that everyone is aware that
Right.
it looks like we got this one right. All right. Anyone else have any questions, motions to amend? I'm not seeing or hearing anything, so I think we're ready to go ahead and vote on final approval for this section. The original amount of $30,900. So we'll make a final vote on approving section 4200, public safety building, in the original amount of $30,900. All in favor? Aye. Opposed and abstained, so we have 600. So we'll move to the next section of the budget, which is police, 4100. I'll make a motion to consider and approve the budget for section 4210. Like I said the wrong number the first time, it is 4210. Police, in the select board recommended amount of $1,597,116. Motion by Paul, seconded by Joe. So same thing, Chris, before we start asking questions, or is there any things you want to point out to us, or?
Yeah, so the first line is the crossing guard. There was some more money added into that. The reason for that is there's been some concerns about
Excuse me, before you, could you give us the line number? This makes it easier for us to catch up.
126.
Thank you. Or maybe I shouldn't say us, makes it easy for me to find it. 126, go ahead. I'm
There's
sorry.
some, the goal is to try to maybe find somebody to employ during the summertime on the busy weekends to kind of do some crossing there. There's been some complaints of people not being able to get across the road, some traffic issues, as well as in front of the middle school, going over to Bristol House of Pizza, that crosswalk. So there's a little extra money there to try and find an employee or a current crossing guard to do some stuff during the summertime in there.
So right now, we do the crosswalk, on between South Main to North Main,
Yeah,
but only when
during
school's
school
in
hours.
session.
Yeah,
So
it's
that
2
would be
hours a
given us
day.
summer, and then
Yeah.
and then the other one across between,
Yeah.
in front of the middle school.
The big one that was brought up, the lady's been very vocal on the yard sale day. The downtown's very congested and wasn't able to cross the street during that day. So like, there's certain Saturdays and Sundays that they're looking for some more coverage down there.
So I'm just looking at you had anticipated quite a lot of more
Yeah,
hours.
so-
And the
so
select
she-
board said, no, that's too much money. So-
Yeah, and I don't disagree with it. There's been a lot of people who are wanting somebody directing traffic downtown, wanting somebody over at the middle school helping with traffic. Then there's been a lot of complaints about parking issues, people parking too long in the summertime in front of businesses. So talk about changing those to 2-hour parking, but then who enforces it? So that was kind of the discussion there. We're not at that point to start looking there. So the select board reduced it from what I had said, but increased it a little bit with the first step of trying to find somebody to help with the crossing and a little bit of traffic on the busy weekends.
Okay, so you're explaining this, you're not asking for any change?
No, I'm not asking for any change. No. I'm good with it.
Do you anticipate that the change from this year's 6,700 to the proposed 8,000 for next year, what does that give us? Or would that allow for a couple of hours in the summer on
Yeah.
that crossing where the school guard is now? Just
Yeah.
make it a 12-month job instead of a 10-month job?
Yeah, that would give for some of that, and then I think possibly too, if we, it's hard finding somebody to fill those positions because it's only an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. So finding somebody to move over to the middle school is a harder find. You gotta find that right person who's willing to come in for an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon for little money. But the goal there would be is if we did find somebody to do it, then maybe that. But I think the more goal is for that crosswalk downtown to be.
I don't know any of the details. I think you know and other people know that I do a fair amount of walking. I do see, I thought it was like a teacher or a school administrator. The school is sending someone out there to
So they've
to
asked
do
for an
something
officer
like
there
that.
for years, and we've kind of pushed it back on them. That honestly, the reason why that's an issue is because they got a grant for safe routes to school, which redesigned the whole area. And what it did is it moved the bus yard into what used to be a parking lot where parents would pick their kids up. Now they have to go down into the parking lot, and it gets congested, and it takes a long time. So instead of doing that, they go to Bristol House of Pizza, and their kid has to cross the road there. So the safe routes to school
Isn't,
made it
not less.
ahead, yeah. So we've kind of pushed it back on the school that if you want somebody there, which I don't disagree, it's an issue, you should you put somebody in a vest and stop traffic there. So they go through spells of having somebody, and then whoever does it either doesn't work there anymore or doesn't want to or whatever. So for the most part, they have somebody there.
I think it's on a volunteer basis, though,
It
from what
is.
they said, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I've always kind of felt that that is more of a school district thing than a town of Bristol thing. It's,
I agree. I want everyone to be safe, but
yeah,
spending another $30,000 to do
Yeah.
that, I agree with the select board's decision to.
yeah.
All right, does anyone else have a question on the crossing guard before Chief moves to the next line he wants to talk about? Okay,
The next big one is our overtime. This is
140, right?
140, sorry.
That's okay.
This has always been underfunded. Really haven't gotten a good idea of how much it's underfunded because of not having employees. We've been fully staffed this year, and we're still way over on overtime. We have an older group of officers, which is great. They've got tons of experience, but when you get older people with families, they spend every minute of their time off, and all of our guys pretty much take every minute. And this dollar amount really doesn't even necessarily cover filling all of their shifts, but it at least gets us to a better spot. We try to do some adjustments anyways to not have to spend as much overtime. So I think this is a safer number for actually covering everything. The other part with overtime, we've got additional training hours that we have to do. Some of it can be done on shift online on the Academy website, but some of it requires us to go to another facility. So either that officer ends up with some overtime, or we backfill their shift with overtime. So that's another part of the increase, is the hours of training that we have to do is every year just getting more and more and more. Use of force is getting more and more. So that's the big increases on the overtime.
So Mike, but I'm also hearing you say that going up from 80 to 105 is needed, but you're still you're not willing to guarantee that we won't be over budget next year.
Yeah, I think 105. This year we're set for about 100. I've been working 3 shifts a week from 8 to like 3 to not have to spend overtime. But it's because we've got guys that have to use vacation before the end of the year, so they've been taking 2 to 3 days off, and we don't have the overtime. I think the 105 is a pretty good number, but it also takes 2 major incidents in town to really jack that up too. Like right now, if we have a major incident, we're gonna be hurting more.
Yeah, don't curse yourself. I guess at this point, I'm not looking to make a motion to amend, but and again, I'm not, but it's probably more a select board thing. When I start to see a number that high, I'm like, gee, are we better off paying the existing people all this overtime? Are we better off increasing staff and having another person to handle all that workload? I don't think that's something we as a budget committee get to decide. So I'm just saying it out loud to share the thought and put a bug in Scott's ear to work with you.
I've thought of that before too, but I'd say, the number that the academy has is like 125,000, but that's an old number. You're probably talking to hire.
Oh yeah, by the time you figure with the salary and benefits and
Yeah.
insurance and that, it's not, but it's starting to get
Yeah,
there.
it
So I
is.
just
Yeah,
felt I wanted to make that comment.
yeah, I don't disagree.
But that might not even solve the problem.
Right. We would still have overtime that we needed to.
Okay.
Yeah, you're probably talking.
Paul, stop talking.
Did I seem like I was cutting you off?
No, you didn't. I want to cut myself off because I think I said more than I needed to.
I switched to a select board hat.
Anyone else have anything they want to say on the overtime line before we move to the next one? All right, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's all I get for the overtime. The next one is court prosecution. This number I asked for 17.5.
143.
Oh yeah, thank you for your
Okay,
time.
come on.
143.
It's okay. I was going to ask about that one, so that's good. 143. Yep. Cool.
So this is a service that we pay for an attorney to handle any major cases that are going to trial.
Mhm.
We handle all minor stuff, but all major cases. We got into it year before I started, and our number was lower because we pay. It's an association, and we pay a percentage based on a 3-year average. So we had low numbers coming into it, so we were paying less. Now our numbers, we have a 5-year period where our numbers have increased, so the cost of that increases. That being said, we are far busier now. We're starting to get back. The court has shifted over the last year and a half back to pre-COVID stuff, where they're holding people a little bit more accountable. They found that over the last 5 years, everybody's just been able to do whatever they wanted. Therefore, once that happens, those court numbers start rising. Once they start issuing bench warrants for people where they weren't issuing bench warrants before for missing court. The other part of it is we've taken an approach too, because nothing was working, that we started to do warrants for people for missing court and charging them on our own stuff instead of court charging them, because we just had to repeat people that knew that if we don't go to court, nothing will happen to us. So our numbers are higher because we are out doing more work. Therefore, that number has increased, and the significant increase is more because of our average. Our average is now an average of 3 years with higher numbers compared to an average of lower numbers. So when we get a case, Chris Carter looks at it. If it's something that's going to be a plea deal that we know is just going to go to court and there's going to be very little time, he handles that and then it doesn't count towards us. If we have a case that's going to be possibly going to trial or have a bunch of motions or something, then that goes off to the attorney. So that's the increase on that. The budget, the select board reduced it to 15,000, but I don't know what, I wasn't here for that, so I don't know what the reduction from 17.5 to 15 was.
So I have a clarifying question. So is this I think you've answered it, but I want to be clear. Is this a service where we basically get the lawyer, the person to represent us, and then we get a bill for their hours?
Yeah.
And we could potentially use less of their hours? Or is this something, I thought what you said is, basically, I thought it was one, but you said it's based on the last 3 years, how much time have you used? And then they say, here's the bill for the service for next year.
Yes.
So this is kind of, in my mind, like an HMA. You either pay the bill and get the services, or you don't pay the bill and you don't get the services, but you can't pay 80% of the bill.
Right.
Am I correct?
Yeah, we get billed quarterly on it, and I don't have whatever the 17.5 divided by 4 is. We get billed quarterly for this service. If we don't have the ability to negotiate with the association, it's either we're in the association or we're not in the association.
This is 17.5 regardless of how many times you use it.
Yeah, there is like, I think it's like $800 or $1,000 in there for officers going to court, but this number will be 17.5, if not a little bit higher for officers going to court.
Christine, were you going to say something?
I was just gonna say, I think when the select board discussed it, they won't use the past history. I don't think they understood that it was an association, and when they did reduce it, so.
Yeah, so we should raise that back up.
I was going to say, I don't want to step on select
No,
board's
I think
toes,
we
but I
just
think we
want-
need to
yeah.
bring it back up.
Yeah, with the information we had, we didn't, from what I recall, we just
Yeah.
trimmed back, met not halfway in the middle, but we lowered it, not knowing it was a full fee.
Okay.
So,
What is the name of the association?
It's the Plymouth Area Prosecutors Association, but I think their technical name is something a little bit
Is it
different.
BJCS?
Yeah,
BJC.
BJCA. It used to
So
be.
Are they professional prosecutors? Or
Yeah,
just
so
lawyers
it's,
that are
It's
providing
one
service?
attorney. She used to be actually working for the county attorney's office. She's left there and it is hired by this group, which it's like Campden, Thornton. There's a ton of towns a part of it. It's essentially a way for small towns to get an attorney instead of having to pay for the attorney. And there's a minimum fee. So some of the smaller towns, you have to pay a minimum amount. And so some people pay like $5,000 a year for her to handle 3 cases. But otherwise, they would have to handle it all on their own. So we've got enough cases that I think it breaks down like $350 per case you get paid. And then, so that's where all the average from all the towns. They have a budget and then they average it out based on call number across all the towns. So next year, I would anticipate probably another $2,500 increase, and then we will probably maintain kind of from there. The big jump is mainly because of the 3-year average. Yeah.
So the only other question,
It's PCGA,
Yeah.
PCGA, but I can't tell you for sure what that stands for.
It's run, but it's like a board. All the chiefs are a member of the board for voting. Then Alexandria, their administrative assistant, they get a discounted rate because she does work towards the
she does the
associate.
admin work.
Yeah, for the association. We had the ability to hire the attorney as a Bristol employee, but we were going to get very minimal for a discount, and it was gonna be way bigger of a headache. And then if everybody decided to pull out of it as our employee, because she has to be a town employee. So right now she's actually a Haverhill town employee contracted by this association. So we pay, the association pays Haverhill back the money.
I was gonna say, I can tell you now, it's Plymouth Court Jurisdictional Association. You would never know that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't either. So I think we're gonna end up making a motion, but before we do, I just wanted to check, do you think that, I'm just looking, for this year, we're budgeted for $12,858, and it says we've spent a little less than $9,000.
We haven't paid, we
I was
paid
gonna say,
fourth
you
quarter.
think there's some more posting coming, we're gonna be.
Yeah, I just asked that to our, we have the fourth quarter bill. I think it might be sitting, waiting for approval to be sent this week, so.
Gotcha. Okay, I just wanted to say, we're not gonna be drastically underspending this year's budget. I thought you would tell me that, but I wanted to be sure.
Yeah, I double checked that before I got here.
Okay. Do you wanna make a motion? You want me to? What do you wanna do?
No, make a motion to move line 143 back to the department request level of 17,500.
Second.
So motion by Scott, seconded by Joe, to amend line 143 from the current 15,000 to a new amount, which is the original department request of 17,500. It's your motion. Do you want to say anything? I think we're ready to vote, right?
No, we just got more information, so.
I think it makes sense. Anyone else have a comment before we call a vote? Okay, so we're going to vote on the motion to amend line 143 from the current 15,000 to a new amount of 17,500. All in favor? Aye. I didn't put enough, thank you. I just want to be sure.
Yeah.
Opposed, abstained, 6-0, that passes.
The next line is 190, which is the certified special officers. This is our part-time.
190, go ahead.
This is our part-time. I had asked for 5,000. I don't disagree with the 2,500. I believe the discussion was, we hired a part-time person. They had tons of intentions on working a bunch of shifts, got a new job, doesn't work nearly what they thought they were going to do. So right now he's currently the only one. That being said, literally about an hour ago, 2 people have reached out to our guys that want to come on part-time now. So now we might be having 2 part-timers. I still think the 2,500 is good, and then hopefully we can offset the open shifts out of overtime with part-time people. That's the goal behind it. It's never really worked out that way. And I just told our officer that brought up these 2 people that they're full-time certified, so their training gets paid by their department, so Bristol doesn't end up paying anything. Our one current part-time person, we are paying them for their training hours, which is now a significant amount. So we have now adopted a new rule that you have to work a minimum of 4 hours a month because it's costing us money to have you as an employee. That being said, literally when we did that, he tore his Achilles tendon and has been out for the last 5 months. So it's our intentions of, if we are going to be paying for training stuff, that we are going to require them to work a certain amount to try and offset filling some shifts.
Okay, but you're okay with the 2,500 that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that if we end up, it might end up being that we overspend that one and we hopefully underspend the overtime if we can hire some more people is the goal.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm not gonna promise that though.
Okay. Before we move on, anyone have any questions on that line 190 certified part-timers? No? Okay, anything else?
The other line that had an increase was our vest replacement. The cost of vests, bulletproof vests, have gone up over the years.
294.
Yeah, 294.
Yep.
They've gone up over the years, and we haven't really increased that over the years. And we're at a point now that this year we purchased 1 less vest. We're actually overspent in that line now too, but we also purchased 1 less vest this year than what we really should have. So we know going into next year we're going to need to buy an additional one. So
Gotcha.
that's the increase on that one. hopefully that could be decreased next year, but probably not with the cost of everything.
Okay.
So I get on that one.
Is that a recurring expense? Do they
It
have
is.
a
There's a
shelf life?
every 3 years they need to be replaced. I mean, you could almost say that they're still good, but if we don't replace them and something happens, then it's gonna be on the town, but they're stamped for every 3 years to be replaced. I can tell you, we brought old ones out to train with them, and they appear to work pretty good still, but
Good thing.
yeah.
Okay.
The next increase is our training. Again, our training hours have gone up significantly. The cost to go to $391.
It's on the same page, I can see it. Go for it.
To go to specialty trainings, which is really what you want to send at least an officer a year to a specialty training, you're talking about $1,000 to send anybody to any decent training.
Mhm.
So that's the other cost. That's the other increase. So that's why we went up $1,000. That line is under budget right this second, and will probably stay that way. But it's only because we canceled a bunch of trainings because our overtime is so messed up right now. So we ended up not letting anybody go to any specialty trainings within the last 4
Oh,
months.
you're working to underspend some lines to compensate
Yeah,
for your
the
overspending
overtime.
and overtime.
We've
Gotcha.
in the past had open positions to help us with that, but
Gotcha.
that's the only reason for the increase on the training. Dispatch fee, they haven't really increased that too much over the last couple of years. This year, they put a fairly significant increase. It's not awful, but a fairly significant increase. They've got Franklin's got a new city manager. They're trying to redo a bunch of things. We actually don't have any contracts with them, which is something that we kind of unraveled. So we're talking with their chief about actually getting into a contract about maybe what the increases will be over the years, and vice versa. We could pull out at any point, and then that would leave them kind of high and dry too. They just invested over $1 million in our tower system, not just for us, but it would benefit everybody, but it benefits us significantly. And he's like, tomorrow you guys can just leave us and we have nothing to get back. So we are talking about something like that, just so that we don't randomly have a 8 or 10% increase, and hopefully keep it to a minor one.
So if I stand in your lobby and pick up the red phone, I'm talking to someone in Franklin?
Franklin,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. That's why sometimes it can be a little rougher too. We've had your lady that we spoke to wasn't very pleasant, and that's a Franklin employee. They deal with a little bit more aggravating things over their shift.
If you pick up the phone out, there still is a phone here, we decided
Yeah.
not to move it outside the building here. And the same thing, if you pick that up, it goes to dispatch in Franklin.
Okay.
We paid which wasn't much, but we paid to install it, and then when we left, we didn't want somebody to come here thinking that we were still here and needing to get the police, so then we just decided we might as well just keep it here. It's not.
Okay.
Gas is the next thing. I increased that just because gas is so unpredictable.
I'm sorry, 635 just for everybody.
635, yeah. The selectmen cut it from what we had last year. That is definitely one that I don't overly agree with, because I think fuel prices are so unpredictable. I'm not saying it's going to go back to the 26, but I would like to see it back to the 23. This last year we averaged about 592 gallons a month, which that at $3 a gallon, which is less than what we're paying right now, equals out to roughly the 22,000, and that's if we were at $3 a gallon. I hope gas goes down, but I don't know if it's going to trend down that much.
What are your expenditures at right now? For 2 years?
So as of November 11th,
I can give you
Yeah, we haven't paid our last bill on that. I think it was like 17.5, but we haven't paid
We
in
just paid your
November.
wax too.
There's 2 or 3 months left of being paid
Still.
in that.
Yeah,
My estimate is we're gonna be right around 22,000 this year, maybe a little bit more than 22,000 this year.
so we don't, we pay through two different accounts. We have WEX that gives us a discounted price. And it's a card that goes in each vehicle, and when we use it at the regular pumps, WEX gives us a discounted price. And then the other one is the New Hampshire DOT.
We use the WEX primarily.
Yeah.
It actually, I don't know, probably 5 years ago, it was cheaper than going through the state. And it's way easier than having to find a state pump. You can just go to any place in town.
Yep.
So, my opinion is I hope it's only $20,000, but gas is very
Yeah,
unpredictable.
We haven't paid anything beyond November.
Yeah.
So, and there's a mistake, I'll fix it.
We're at 17.5, right?
You're at 15.4 right now, but nothing's been paid for November, but something's booked here that shouldn't be. I'll show
Or
you
maybe we're
tomorrow.
under
So what I'm hearing is that you asked for 26, the select board cut you to 20. You
Yeah.
didn't say it quite as bluntly as I would, but you said you'd like us to go back to the 23 to at least level fund you.
Yeah, I am slightly worried that if it doesn't go
I'm
down,
just gonna actually, do you have anything you can share from the select board discussion? Do you know why the cut was made from 26 to 20? Or why a cut was made at all, or why that number was picked?
I think and this is just me from my memory, but I think when they talked about it, they felt that the rates weren't as high as they've been, so that there could be some adjustment made down. Correct me if either of you remember
I
something
think
else.
that's along those lines. We thought fuel costs were gonna probably coming down.
yeah, when he made the motion to cut it, it was that fuel prices are trending down.
We had spent a portion of this year paying at a much higher rate as prices were falling through the year, and that was the discussion that we.
And we're not gonna overspend this year's 23, and if prices are falling, we should spend less next year, so.
That was the discussion, yeah.
Does that program tell us what we pay? I don't know what we pay per gallon front through WEX. Does it tell you what?
I can, yeah, let me just look up a wax.
Because I didn't think about it in that manner, that if it was significantly higher at the beginning of the year, I don't know what the gas price was.
I don't know what the other committee members are thinking. I don't want to put the police department in a tough position where you have to overspend the line and then find other lines that you're going to underspend. But the logic that gas prices are going down is true right now. Now, you know, we go up, Ukrainians blow up some more Russian oil pipelines.
That's what I'm worried about.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
you're
but-
certainly, and you could, I mean, you could have
There's some volatility out there.
There's some conflict within us.
I guess, but I guess where I was going with this is, I'm open to the thought of making a change. I just don't feel like I have enough information to be sure it's the right thing to do. I'd like to ask you to go back and work with Christine and come back. We have a meeting later in the cycle where we're gonna reopen and reconsider sections. And if you come to us with more information then, I'd be more comfortable considering it. But right now it's kind of a swag. I don't know what the right answer is. And so given a choice between putting more money in the budget and less money in the budget, it's easier to
Yeah.
put less money in the budget.
So I didn't think about going back to see what we were paying at the beginning of the year. I typed in on Google national average for this year and what national average for next year is. The national average this year was $3.06, and next year is predicted to be around $3 to $3.10. So I felt that it's about the same national average of 24 or 25 that they're expecting for 26. But
I don't know if we can really, I don't think this is the line we're gonna predict.
We never did
I don't know if we can really
either.
ask the chief to go back and come up, like, I appreciate the sentiment, but that's gonna be a really hard number to do beyond the information we already have today. I just think there's so much volatility geopolitically that this could change.
Correct, I agree with you, yeah, okay.
I mean, I would personally, I'd feel comfortable bumping it back to the 23,000, knowing that we'll likely finish this year around 23,000. That's at least a benchmark of current state that we can work off of.
I'm fine with that.
From what I look at, you were paying more at the beginning of the year, you're paying less now, but not a lot less. These bills are fun to read.
Yeah, it's way pain in the neck. You have to go through and like every single thing, look at. Like, we had to count every gallon of gas and
And it depends on where you filled up too. And it's a
Yeah.
huge difference from some of them. Heads up.
So, I mean, I'm happy
So,
to.
I was gonna say, you wanna go ahead and make a
Yeah.
motion?
I'll make a motion to amend line 4210-635 from the select board amount of 20,000 to 23,000.
Second.
So a motion by Joe, seconded by Buzz, to amend line 635 in this section of the budget, which is police gasoline, from the current 20,000 to a new amount of 23,000. I think this is similar. Don't want to cut things off, but I don't think there's a lot of discussion yet to be done. Does anyone have anything they want to say before we call a vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That's aye, so opposed, abstained, that's 6-0, that passes. So, let me just make a note here, 635. What's it like, 3,000? Okay, any other line you wanted to bring to our attention?
No, I think that's it for
So you're open to questions now, if you don't mind. I will start with a question simply that I don't completely understand. So line 139, which is highway safety overtime grant.
that's, that is.
Can you explain that? Because to me, a grant is income, so I don't know why we're, is this because we're gonna spend the grant?
A lot of grants are cost reimbursed, so you have to incur the cost.
Then we gotta do gross appropriation, I understand. So this is spending the grant.
So this one that I have in here for this year is just for the cost of speed patrols and actual like go. I think we have like speed ones, DWI ones, and maybe a seatbelt one. So this is reimbursing the town for the officer's expense. Now, we didn't budget for that last year, so in my budget right now, it looks like we're like, I don't know what the number, it's like $6,000 in the red, but we've been reimbursed that money because it didn't get ended. We only did an equipment line last year.
No, I see in the 24 budget and the 25 budget, there's no money on this line, so this is,
Yes, so that is why. In the years past, it hasn't been booked, yeah, it's been booked differently, so I didn't want it to look like we were in the red another $6,000, so I put the money into there.
no, I think this makes sense. I just was not clear and I'm asking for, so the follow-up question I have is, does this grant require us to have officers work overtime to get the grant? We can't use the grant to pay their regular salaries, it has to be overtime.
So we were getting rid of this for this year. The equipment grants, the way that our budget works, with the town meeting, we get approved on our budget in March. The state budget ends in July. So we have to purchase, have in hand, and install whatever equipment it is that we buy.
Ooh, those new radar signs and that type of stuff.
Yes.
Because, yeah,
And those radar signs don't come in anywhere near in time. And then this last one we got came with all the wrong parts. And they came up in August, saw that we didn't have them installed. We showed them all the emails, all the correspondence with the company. And they said, if you don't have that installed, you guys are paying all of it. So we installed it on the telephone pole with the wrong sign on it and everything. And I got called all day, every day about it. And I'm like, we either pay it. So because of that disaster, we're looking for 2027 to do something different. And what I think we're gonna do is we're gonna apply for the grant for the following year, get approved in March, apply
That's
for
what I was thinking. Get
2028.
the money applied in March and then get the grant for the year, for the
Yeah,
state
and
calendar.
then we can
starting
order
July
it any
1st.
point. Yes, that's what we're looking to do.
There are two different grant lines in your budget. The one Chris is talking about right now is.
That's down lower
is
for equipment.
line 891.
Right.
The grant related
Yeah.
expenses. The other one, the highway safety OT grants are the ones he's telling you about, speed, DUI and seatbelts.
Yeah.
I do have to check, I do not know why there's nothing booked to this, it's showing.
To which one,
it's everything.
891?
I think they're being charged to the wrong line.
I think so too.
Yeah. So we'll double check that. But
So
they have done these OT
Yes.
grants already. We've gotten reimbursements, and you'll also see in the revenue and offsetting reimbursement for these OT grants.
So with all of that, since we weren't getting equipment, if you get equipment, you're required to do the enforcement piece, and it has to be overtime. It can't be backfilling a shift. It can't be so many different things. We got rid of those two. Like, we're taking the year off. We're gonna get a better plan. They called this money. They have to spend the money or else they lose it. So, and they don't, the departments, because it's such a pain in the neck, don't want to do it. So they essentially told us, if you don't take these these enforcement ones, you'll never get grants ever again for this. So we're doing the enforcement grants. So in the future, we can look at still getting further grants. Our radar trailer that we got through a grant, they came in December, it was in the Sallyport, and we got murdered on having it inside in the garage and not out on the road. And I said, well, one, DOT does not allow us to put anything on the side of the road during the winter time. And two, we didn't want it to get destroyed with salt or hit by a car or hit by a plow truck. And they said, well, you're required to have that out there whenever we want you to. I'm like, all right, well, if you want us to, we'll go put it out there. They settled on wait till the snow goes away, and then made us report to them for a month's worth of data from the speed sign to prove that we put the speed sign out after snow ended. It's been a nightmare for them. It would have been better off buying them.
Classic.
And it's the state with one thing, but literally another state department yelling at us about the other thing. Like the signs that we have hanging up, we can't just move those anywhere. DOT's like, you have to have these GPS to the exact spot. You cannot move them. So, yeah.
And just to move, there's one that we want to move that's permanent, it was supposed to be permanently installed on pole, and we want to move it, and we have to jump through hoops to get it moved.
And they haven't come out. The one by Old Mill, they want us to move it. And I try getting in touch with this guy numerous times. He's got to come back out and give us permission to take it off and move it one pole down, and he has to mark the GPS coordinate on it. Or that's why we also put this one on North Main. We were planning on putting it somewhere between the community center and the school anyways, but a town road, I don't have to do any of that stuff.
So the one by Mill Stream, you're talking about moving it a little bit closer to downtown?
I forget which pole she wants.
That's either there
one
or
pole.
we talked about
Or
South Main.
We talked about South Main because there's been some complaints over there.
It's hard to see.
But it's tough
the
over there.
crosswalk.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And the other one that I get a million questions on, the one on 104 on Summer Street that gets you long before you get in the 30. I've asked at the same time, can we try and get that one repositioned to a different spot so that's not flashing that you're speeding when you're not speeding? But just waiting for them.
All right, well, thank you. I opened that can. Does anyone else have any comment or question before we move on? Does anyone else have a line that they wanted to ask or think about? So, I'll go to the next one I have, 431. Police Department Building Maintenance.
yeah.
I don't understand why
So-
this is in
So
your
I-
group and not in
I
the
put
public safety building.
$300 in there mainly because there's, especially this year being new, there's been a couple things that we've wanted to, we've needed to fix or we've wanted to buy or something that just to make it easier, just to go to the valleys and get some mud or something to fix in the building. That way, we know that we have enough money just to do something, some minor fixes in the building. That's the reason behind that, instead of checking with Ben to see if we have any more money in it.
Yeah, it is kind of a pain in the backside the way
Yeah.
it's budgeted, but it would make more sense potentially to move forward down, you know, whether it's this year or down the road, having some little bit of, you know, a line within your own department budget that allows you to kind of look back and say, you know, and not specifically super building related stuff, but like our building maintenance line covered, right, a lot of little expenses when we had just the fire station. And now you're like, well, that's where we would, you know, build a new set of lockers, right? It's like $200 worth of materials from La Valley's, that's where we get charged to before. And now you're like, well, how do, you know what I mean? It's just kind
How do you
of,
fit
it's
it in?
kind of odd to charge it to a combined line, but.
Well, I don't wanna spend a ton of time here, because $300 is not worth a lot of time, but it just surprised me to see a building
That was the main
maintenance
reason,
line
it's
in
for
your
those-
budget when we have a whole separate public safety building.
It's for those little things. There's been numerous times throughout the, and we put things towards like equipment. Like we bought 2x4s under equipment for doing something. I mean, there's a little bit of work on some sheetrock that's not the greatest, that needs to be re-mudded. It's just for that stuff. It's for some minor building maintenance stuff instead of.
I do think that the combined building maintenance, they kind of come up with a number, but it's got some specific things set to it. So there wasn't much wiggle room if something came up during the year, so.
It's more for like your fire extinguisher, the sprinkler system.
Yep, sprinkler system, HVAC system,
Okay.
fertilization, all
Like I
of
said, I
that.
don't wanna spend a lot of time on this. I guess my closing comment would be, maybe in next year's budget, we could come up with a better label for that line, because it's
That was one of the.
certainly caught my eye, not that it's $300, just that why is building maintenance still in the police budget is the question I had.
Is there a comparable catch-all in the fire budget?
No,
I didn't see it,
Well, it probably still shows, because we have the same line
but
with
it's,
the old building, I just don't have anything in there.
right.
maybe like even a materials and supplies line or something like that.
So, I'm ready to move on, and I think that's all I have, so, anyone else have anything? I don't think so. Let me do some math real quick.
I'm gonna give you your number,
So we added 55.
1602, 616.
Yep, that's the number I got too. So, I think we're ready to vote on the bottom line for the police department. Anyone else has comments, speak up now? Not hearing anything. So we're gonna take a vote, a final vote on the police budget for section 4210 in the amended amount of $1,602,616. All in favor? Aye. Opposed and abstained, 6-0, that passes. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you guys.
And now we will do the fire department budget. I'll make a motion to consider and approve the budget for the fire department, section 4220, in the select board recommended amount of $2,078,551.
Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Scott. I can stop talking now because you get to talk.
I don't really want to. Yeah, so I'm certainly happy, and there's a couple of lines that I'll highlight, but I guess the important one to start with is the elephant in the room, and that's the $2 million budget. So I think
You broke a barrier.
what's important to remember, and and most everybody sitting here knows, and anybody new probably knows anyway, but is the big impact, right, is the 4 new positions that were approved by warrant last year. And that was 6 months. So you take the 1.575 roughly budget that we approved, and then you add $254,000 in the special warrant, and you're up to, roughly $1.8 million. That's still a $278,000 increase, right? But what's important to remember is that those positions are 100% funded by the EMS contract. So, numbers to me are simple. They add up and they subtract, and that's what it is, right? So I think for us, we've never really looked at it and said, well, the fire department brings in a bunch of revenue. And we do, even before the changes in the contracts and the town's picking up the cost. We've never really looked at it and said, okay, well, it's $1 million budget and there's a few $100,000 in revenue, so it's really only $700,000 or whatever the number is. But it's pretty important this year. You're looking at a 14, 15, whatever the number is, % increase. So when you add all that together, to me, the best way to look at it is say, what's the tax impact? Obviously, we have a giant chunk of revenue that comes in against this $2 million budget. And so what's left over after that? And that increase is about $37,000 in this year's request. For comparison, whether you agree with the 4% increase to salaries or not, that 4% increase would be about just shy of $40,000, right? So ultimately, we've trimmed in other spots to make this as palatable as possible, and at the same time, increase those revenues kind of naturally through the contract, right? They're picking up 100% of those position costs, and then just naturally based on call volume increases or what have you, the other side of the formula adds to that revenue. So it really is about a 3.5% increase, when you really compare apples to apples, a full year of funding versus a full year of funding. So I can delve into that more. I had a whole thing worked up, but I forgot there was some payroll lines that were kind of screwed up, the tax lines, and so that doesn't make any sense. But it's roughly it's like $37,546 would be the real impact to. There's some pennies involved. Is like the real impact to the increase in spending, which is less than what we would see just in raises. So that's where I would like to start. The rest of it, obviously, the payroll lines are the payroll lines. There's a couple of lines that are more than that roughly 4% number. They largely have to do with, we have an employee that'll obtain his paramedic certification partway through the year. It accounts for that adjustment in his pay rate. We promoted an employee to a lieutenant's position this year. That allows him for another step for that promotion. The rest of everything kind of aligns with that. Obviously, some of these positions are roughly 100% increase, which makes sense because it went from 6 months to 1 full year of funding. So really a bunch of other lines then get impacted. So overtime's the first big one. The thing I would point out with overtime is, again, a chunk of that money is being paid for from that revenue directly, and then a portion under the old EMS contract. That number, right now it's 11 employees, not 7 that are overtime eligible. It's 11 employees and not 7 that start out day one with roughly 3 weeks off that they can take a year. They don't necessarily take it. They might bank a little bit and save for the future. But it's also then 11 employees that are going to be sick throughout the year and miss a shift. And a shift isn't 8 hours, it's 24 hours at a whack. So that number this year that I'm using is 335 hours per employee. So historically, it's gotten up to 350. We made a hiring. We got it back down to 325. The last couple of years, we've budgeted overtime at 350 hours per employee. And now, at least with the new hires, between a bunch of people that aren't on the upper end of earning, say the 3rd week or 4th week of vacation, they're all down at 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right? When they walk through the door. It gets it down to 335 hours per employee, and we'll probably stay pretty close to that for the next couple of years, which is good. Just kind of to that point, right? When do you get to that point where you can offset this with a position? You really can't. That 335 hours, it's like just shy of 3,700 hours in a year, and that sounds like a lot. But we have a ton of second calls, we have a ton of third calls. The staffing right now still requires somebody to come in overnight for those second and third calls. The call company, what we have left for a call company is great. It's a bunch of people that have been here for a long time, but that number has dwindled. The benefit we have right now is with those 11 employees, most everybody's living, if they're not in town, they're in a contiguous town, they're happy to come back for calls, particularly those second med calls. Not a lot of people in the call roster don't want to come in for second medical calls for any number of reasons, not the least of which is it's 3 in the morning and they've got to be to work at 6 or 6:30 at their normal job. We have full-time members that are happy to come in and assist on those calls. That's in addition to their normal, so it's overtime. Just covering shifts, you'd be at like about 2,000 hours is probably what that number is, just shy of 2,000 hours. But now that relies on coming up with, if you hired somebody, let's say, to come up, and what would you say, 10, 15% really of that number. Now you've got to go to a system and say, okay, we currently have a system that says no more than 2 employees on vacation in a week, right? To just make sure you're not burning everybody else out. Now you got to come up with a system that says, at a minimum, no more than 1 person on vacation. Oh, and while that person's on vacation, nobody can get sick, right? It would never work out fully. If you had some other, emerging thing, you got a grant to fund 20 hours a week to do a program, could you combine it with something like that? Sure, but that's not even anything we're talking about. So that's overtime. I can really detail it more if needed, but that's the cost of maintaining that 3 on, 24/7, 365 days a year. So holiday, same thing. It's affected by the increase in employees. Call payroll's not up very much. Most of that, it's a little bit of reduction of hours, and then the call members would get the same 4% COLA adjustment, so that's roughly where that comes from. Part-time shift coverage is down, so last year, as a function of anticipating the warrant article going through, we reduced part-time spending because we didn't have, we weren't gonna, post-July, we wouldn't have 2 extra positions on every weekend day. We dropped to 1. So this is kind of just the net impact, get that the rest of the way down and then fund it for the whole year. So that's why there's a 7% decrease there. Disability, life, again, affected by the change in the number of employees, which makes about sense. 4 more is roughly half of, 50% more employees. FICA I'm still confused about, but that's what the math says, so that's what it is. Retirements, that increase. Uniforms is down by that, more than that 3% number. So when we hired the 4 positions and built that $254,000 number, it front loaded to, right, we've got new employees, so you're gonna buy them the couple of pairs of pants, the couple of pairs of polos, plus the jackets, plus the winter wear, and then now this year it'll just go to kind of that more maintenance of a couple of polos and a sweatshirt when it wears out type of thing. I'm keeping ambulance billing flat for the first year in a long time, which is not great. It's largely, I anticipate a decrease based on the state's kind of setting of a new statewide rate at 325% for a couple of years until they get done a study. More information is available offline. So that said, that number got us to kind of a projection that was probably a little bit unrealistic, and we didn't meet it this year. So I think we're going to be fine there. it depends on kind of which fire chief is doing the numbers, whether it won't be an increase, but hopefully we'll lose, say, 5% of building revenue as opposed to the 15% that I think it'll be. Cell phones up, so one, keeping a third ambulance meant we really needed to have a tablet on that ambulance, and then just the way dispatch is going, we're not that far from basically not dispatching ourselves. That's an unfair word. They're still going to do a ton of work, but being able to kind of decrease some of the time and noise on the airwaves by using tablets. So we added a tablet, then we added another tablet for engine 2, and that's the cost of the data plans. Did allow us to get rid of some old flip phones, so it's like $32 more a month or something like that. But that's the increase there. Training's another big one that's up, so the board agreed to enter into a training agreement with one of our employees, which provides that we will cover the cost of that tuition for the paramedic program, which was significantly reduced by grant funds. So there's it's just shy of $5,700 will be due next year towards his tuition. So, instead of asking for a $5,700 increase, we could balance it out and get to that $12,500. When I first looked at it, I thought maybe we could, not have such a big increase, but ultimately we've got 2 employees that are required to get through AEMT training next year, and then the normal refresher requirements. So we'll make do with the 12.5, but just barely. Lakes Region, I would love to have you guys decrease that. But I gotta find that number because I almost just said the wrong number. So that number can actually be $54,006. The initial request was based on the worst case scenario. They had proposed some positions and some stuff that didn't make it through the board of directors. And so our actual assessment this year is $54,006.
What line is that?
Or you can leave it, that's, sorry, $395.
$395. Well, that's easy. I'll make a motion to amend line $395 for fire department, Lakes Region Fire Dispatch from the current amount of $57,000 to a new amount of $54,006.
Seconded.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Joe, endorsed by the chief. This should be easy. Any other comments, questions? We're ready to vote. Should I stall until Scott comes back? I think it's gonna pass. We'll just pass it without Scott. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
Missing.
Missing.
I can tell him and abstain. Might be easier.
All right, 501.
And then he'll have to explain, why did you abstain? Well,
Right.
I learned that.
All right, working down. So equipment maintenance and repairs, this is to cover just the maintenance agreements on equipment. If you look into CIP stuff, we're coming up. One of the big ones, the hydraulic tools, right? The rescue tools, extrication for auto accidents. Previously, we had a cycle where, and I think it was every 3 years, right? 1 or 2 of the pieces of equipment got serviced, and then not for 3 years, and then 1 or 2 pieces of the equipment got serviced. Those are coming up on their replacement just based on wear and tear. They really need to be PM'd every single year. So the board did reduce it. We'll be fine at the $2,500 number, but it is an increase from the $1,500 that it's been for a number of years. Defib maintenance is up quite a bit. This is kind of like a poorly worded line. Ultimately, it's just always been that for 22 years that I've been
I
here.
read your
Yeah.
explanation, and I'm like, it doesn't quite match. but-
So we cover really kind of all the maintenance and PMs on EMS equipment in this line, which is good, and it's good that we have it because it makes my job easier when it comes contract building time, and I can just slide all the costs over. But between the stretcher maintenance, the ventilator maintenance now, the defib maintenance, that's where that cost is. And it's all the most important stuff that you can't, you know, there's always kind of a joke when you're getting into EMS that really like almost everything on the truck has 3 different uses. And you can make do with 90% of the, without 90% of the stuff on the truck, because if you have something else, you can make it work. You can't get by without your stretcher working or your defib working. You can maybe get by without your vent working, but it'd really be better to have it working. So that's why the increase there.
That makes sense. Just on the 431, is this also impacted by the fact that instead of having equipment for 2 ambulances, we now have equipment for 3 ambulances?
Slightly, but not really.
Not
And I say not really because the current, the stretcher that's in A1, because that was we bought it refurb, it's not eligible for the PM program, so we don't have that PM. We can do in-house maintenance to it, and that's fine. The same thing, the monitor is affected, but it's a smaller rate because it's just a slightly different monitor. So a small portion, yes, is having 3 ambulances now, but
So it contributes, but it's not the answer, not the
yeah,
cause.
no, it's definitely not the.
Ben, when you buy those, or even when you do the service contracts on those, can you access like group purchasing for those, or is that all kind of, you have to buy and negotiate on your own?
For what, sorry?
Any of the equipment that's on the trucks? So like statewide contracts and access or anything?
No,
Okay,
no,
just curious.
yeah, no.
Okay.
We do some stuff, and I know Matt's, it may be in there, to be honest with you. Like, so when NETS comes up, I don't know what it stands for. They're the company that does our ladder testing and certifying the aerial and then all the ground ladders. So we end up, you know, whatever that cost is, we probably pay about 85% of what we could, based on, we work with basically everybody in the area to kind of coordinate a 2 or 3 day span that they can come up here. Alexandria brings their equipment over, Hill brings their equipment over, uses our space. So it you know, decreases like the travel cost and all that stuff. So, but yeah, purchasing wise, and some of that's just, it'd be the cycles that you're on. You know, we're ready to buy defibs this year, and Laconia or Franklin's not until 2 years down the road, or they're running different equipment. But yeah, there's no state bid, which is kind of weird, but there isn't. What's the next one? Supplies. So supplies is one that, you know, we made a pretty significant reduction to that based on kind of sharing the paper products cost over in the public safety building line. And I guess to that discussion that you were having with Chris, this is probably partly that too, where there's about a $300 increase. Some of it's just supplies, right? We kind of ballparked what the cost, you know, taking out toilet paper and tissues and paper towels would be. We probably didn't nail it quite on the head, and then have that, you know, extra $150 or so when you run into, you know, you gotta get a key made for something or whatever the case may be. That would be kind of building maintenance related, but more of an us thing than a building thing.
So this kind of handled some of your small miscellaneous things, is what I'm hearing you say. Is that fair?
Yeah, very little. The other side of it too is you can't, it's kind of hard to guess when you go from cleaning 2,400, right? This is the majority of our like cleaning supplies are out of the supply line. So for us and for our side, because we have people on staff and we can clean and that's fine. But the point is, right, we went from roughly 2,400 square feet, you know, the administrative section in the old building, to like 4,000. Was it just simply going to be an increase, right, the offsetting increase, or is it a little bit different? So that's really where the increase, the majority of the increase is it's more places to clean, it's a bigger facility, it's still relatively inexpensive, I think. What is this one? Vehicle maintenance. So vehicle maintenance is up. A portion of this is keeping a third ambulance. A portion of this is really there's just a bunch of maintenance to take care of. So last year was the first year where we combined the maintenance lines, and we kind of straight lined, this is what we had, and so this is what we'll have collectively. There's some spring work still on engine 4 that we are not going to be able to accomplish this year, nor are we going to have the funds. We'll be probably just over expended in that line by the end of the year. We got a lot done, but there's stuff coming up. The generator needs to be repaired on engine 2. The springs on engine 4, the ladder needs new tires, those are not cheap, and then kind of the continuous rotation of everything else. So that 45,000 number puts us into a much better position when you consider the amount of fleet and the age, especially of the fire apparatus that it's taken care of. And even though at some point maybe we'll be having a discussion about replacing engine 2, even if that's purchased today, we're not going to see it for 3 to 4 years minimum. So we still have to maintain that truck that's now 20, 21 years old, 20 years old. The next big one's medical supplies. Again, that number goes up every year, and it's really consistent with the increase in call volumes and kind of the acuity of the patients we're seeing. We still get really great pricing through Concord Hospital and that group on the majority of our supplies. Then there's other supplies where, between Boundtree or More Medical or whatever, Henry Schein, somebody, we're constantly trying to price out and keep that number as low as possible. And Matt does a great job handling that, but that's where that number needs to be moving forward. I think those are the big ones. Tools and equipment, fire is I guess it's 8.7% increase. That's really, it's just the cost of everything. So that number doesn't do a whole lot. It allows us to hopefully keep up on things. If a saw breaks to the point where we can't repair it, we can replace a saw. An event saw isn't $900 anymore, it's $1,500, $1,600. Fans that used to be $200 are $400 and $500 to replace. We've been trying to do some stuff looking at, kind of long-term planning on those smaller, they're not really capital because they're not $10,000, a whack, but they're still bigger items. And, I used to have like a 3% multiplier in there, and we're not seeing less than 5% on any of that equipment. And we haven't, even really pre-COVID, we were seeing bigger increases than that. So that's where that is. I tried to offset it with that reduction in the next line, so that's 810, 812 was 7,500 last year. We've knocked that back to 6,250 for EMS equipment purchasing. It balances out, I think.
Yeah, it was up 750, that was down 750.
Yeah. So protective clothing's another one that, right, the structural gear for firefighting, it just continues and continues and continues to rise. We're in about the cheapest gear we can be in, but still feel comfortable going into 1,000-degree environments. So that number is the number where we need to be to continue the 4 sets of gear that we've been buying the last number of years, along with you're going to find a helmet that's out of service, or it's going to go out of service, or boots are going to get holes in them, or whatever the case may be. So you're probably, it's like, I did the math earlier, it's like 17,000 and change just to replace those 4 sets of gear, and then that gives you about $2,500 for $600 helmets at a whack, $525 pair of boots at a whack. So it's not a whole lot of extra in there. But it's a good number. The program's worked for a couple years now, and so hopefully we can fund it at that level. Radio equipment's a fairly big reduction. Most of that was A3 coming last year. We knew A3 was coming. We knew that we were keeping A1 so that we would have at least a reserve piece, if not really frequently lately. We're getting that truck out on emergencies pretty frequently. So we needed to buy those radios. It still keeps it a little bit higher than maybe a number of years ago prior to the radio lease when it was $1,000. But it's time to start replacing pagers. They're starting to go out. The newer version is in place. We bought a few this year. We'll probably have to replace about half-ish of the department's pagers next year. And to me, that's just a better way to do it than, you know, whether it's next year, this year or next year, having a $12,000 warrant article to replace pagers. We're in a good position that they're still working well, that we can kind of knock off a handful or 15 this year and then a handful out of whack every couple of years. That's what I have.
Okay.
That's a
Anyone
lot.
have any? Brian, go ahead.
Chief, just to clarify, have you had any difficulty on the positions that are supported by contract revenue, collecting the revenue?
No.
And just a second question, if I may, as you pointed out earlier, they were for half a year, now they'll be for a full year and they're offset by revenue. So effectively, the bottom line in your budget is a rather modest adjustment.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, to your point, Brian, we talk about the budget and we're required to do gross appropriations, so that's there, but really it's the tax effort that affects the taxpayers that we need to think about, and there's offsetting revenue, so it's not, shouldn't be a big push on additional money.
I will let you,
Go ahead.
we did collect all of this year already. And then with the increase, with their increase this year, and then there's another increase for next year.
So I was gonna ask, because I'd like to know what's going on, and I don't understand. Line 200, you got called shift differential. So we budgeted this year for 0, but the actual spend is $54,000. But you mentioned earlier.
I'll take your word for it. That doesn't make any sense.
But you told me the workers work 24 hours, so how can there be a difference in a shift? I don't understand. So I'm talking about
I don't think that's correct.
line 200 is what I'm asking
Yeah,
about.
so the shift differential, it's never been a budgeted thing. When we went to this program, what it is, the shift differential is so we have firefighters that have been, whether it's with Bristol, right, they have to meet a minimum requirement. They've been with Bristol a certain amount of time, they've been in the fire service a certain amount of time, right? And then they test as if they were gonna promote to lieutenant or whatever. And provided that they pass that test, they now become eligible to act out of grade, right? So there's a shift officer assigned to every shift. We want a shift officer on every shift. But if a shift officer isn't available, right? If the captain today, calls out sick, let's say. If we have somebody that's eligible to act out of grade and act in that shift officer's capacity for the day, they get an extra $1.25 an hour. It's not a lot, but it's something to say, hey, you've got some responsibility today, and we recognize that that's there.
Okay.
That's, the report is wrong.
Yeah.
We have not spent any money. There's some type of, I will find out why.
All right.
So for
So
the,
there's two things. One is that there's an
Right.
error in the report and it's
Yeah.
not right. And the other is that when I think of shift differential, I think about you get more money because you work in second
Yeah.
shift, you work in third shift. This is about you get more money because you're acting in a higher management capacity
Right.
because the person who normally does the job is not available. You're
Yeah.
stepping into that breach. Gotcha.
so quite honestly, I think that number is probably actually 0
It is.
because currently there's nobody eligible to act out of grade. There should be soon, but there's nobody eligible to act out of grade, and we
The
haven't.
person that was, you just promoted.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they were one, and then there was some turnover around the same time. So, for whatever reason, from a booking standpoint, in my head, this was just going to get booked to overtime because to me, it's extra money. And a couple of previous finance officers ago, the decision was it should really be booked in a separate line. I just account for it, you know, in my own spreadsheet as a part of the overtime money, so, but yeah, where 54,312 came from, who knows?
I have no idea, honestly, I have no idea where that number's coming from.
Okay,
If
I will
check
let
the
it go, I will
ledger,
let it go,
it
you can
says
put it on your
zero,
list of things to
so
look
I don't
into.
know why budget says that.
Okay.
I'm screenshotting it and sending it to him now.
Okay. What was I gonna say? I don't know why I have that highlighted, so I'll skip that. I don't know what my question would have been.
That's weird.
All right. Okay, I don't think I have any more. Anyone else have anything they want to bring up or ask about? I think we're ready to vote on the bottom line number. So we're now going to vote on the bottom line number for the fire department. So we're going to vote on section 4220, which is the fire department, and we've amended it. The new amount is $2,075,557, which is a almost $3,000 reduction due to the change we made to the dispatch line. You confirm I said the number right?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed and abstained to 0. 600, that passes. So I think we're done with fire, right? And now we just have the fourth section, which is emergency management. So I'll make a motion to consider and approve section 4290 for emergency management in the select board recommended amount of $1,002.
Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Les, for emergency management. Surprise me, tell me you have something to say about this.
I know, it's just important, right, to look at it and say, well, we didn't spend anything in 2025.
Yep.
So 2025, my plan was to go to EMI and take at least one class down at EMI, which would probably not be quite $1,000, but it'd be a pretty big portion of that. Obviously, we shut the fire academy down for a number of months, and then we didn't fund the federal budget for a number of months, and ultimately that never worked out. So that's why there's nothing spent out of there this year, and we would hope to be able to do that. I've got my eye on like 3 classes that I would really like to take over the next 2 years, and hopefully things can stay open long enough to actually do that. And that's just the Emergency Management Institute, which is attached to the National Fire Academy down in Maryland. But that's it. That's what I got.
Okay. Anyone, I don't have any. Anyone else have any questions, comments, suggestions for changes? No? We're ready to vote on the section? I think we are. Okay, so we'll vote on approving the final approval on section 4290 for emergency management in the original amount of $1,002. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 600, that passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Have you, for those who've been here before, forestry, we did eliminate it completely this year, so.
Right. So, our next item on the agenda is to consider the minutes for our previous meeting on November 25th. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the November 25th meeting.
Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Joe. And I will jump in and make the first comment. If you look at the minutes, and I have proofread these, I think you all know that I proofread these before you go out to you, so I have to apologize for not catching this. But in the zoning board section, it says that we approved a budget of $210,000, which doesn't make any sense. The correct number is $2,450. That was the motion that was made, that's what we voted on, that's what we approved. These minutes are not right. So that number needs to be changed.
In 2 places, yeah.
Yep, in 2 places, both the original motion and the final approval. And I know that there are other probably things, Christina caught one when I was talking to her about it, like a grammar problem, but I don't do that very well, so I'll leave that to other people who are better at it. You want to do yours next?
Yeah, I probably have it. the first one is just in the present thing. And
Oh, the line of who's present in the meeting?
yeah, I don't know as we have to be pointing out people that, for whatever reason, come in a few minutes late. I just,
So you'd like to strike Tardy?
tardy, I don't think that's appropriate.
If you disagree, speak up, otherwise we'll just say that we're instructing the minutes to be
We-
amended as such.
We usually say what time they arrived, but because if the votes are different from the beginning to the end, so we could change it to arrived if it was 6:15, something like
Yeah,
that, that would be
that's fine. It
better.
doesn't-
I don't know when she did though, so
She came in about 5 minutes after
She
we
came in,
started.
she was there for the first, she participated in all the votes. I couldn't tell you what time she came in, but she was a little bit late.
Actual time is factual, but tardy has a negative ramification to it.
So I would say strike it too, yeah. And then we'll make sure going forward that we'll put in arrived 6:05 or 6:15, whatever time, so.
Okay,
The next one is under new business.
yeah.
And this is a departure, we haven't done this before, but the female, whatever, has always been
That's
Ms.
on my list.
And we're we've gone to
Christine?
Mrs., and
So
that's
Christina,
so 1960.
so Christine and I talked about it before the meeting, and I decided I didn't want to bring it up in the meeting and make a motion. We were just gonna handle that administratively and change all
We're
the,
gonna change all the misses to miss, because it just should be, miss can be either or, so.
Right.
so yes, we're gonna do that.
And then, let's see, about halfway down in that section, the line begins with the words "property changes flagged."
Yep.
After the word, property changes flagged for assessor review, comma, you should insert the word "that."
That increased due to,
Yeah.
okay.
And in 4191,
But can I just add one in that same paragraph? There's a misspell, the heading is spelled different than where it's spelled in later in the same paragraph, so it shouldn't have two E's.
oh, yeah,
Reevaluation should,
I never read the headings.
But go ahead now.
Just the last comments I have are under 4191 Planning Board. Fourth line down, be encumbered to revise chapter 5, da, da, da. After the word services at the end of the line, you should insert the word which.
which was reactivated.
Yeah, and then in the final line, the last clause, and addressing, it should be and addresses, which was reactivated and addresses.
Actually, it refers to solar too, doesn't it? It doesn't say that here.
Yeah,
Was that the discussion at all? It says discussion clarified the ordinance, because the ordinance isn't just, is that the?
yeah, there was a brief, I don't know if it's a discussion, it was.
I had asked a question.
Yeah,
And it was about solar, right?
Right.
Yeah, I asked the question, is
Right.
solar residential only, or
right,
business ordinance apply to commercial?
So do you want to say discussion clarified that the solar ordinance is residential only, not commercial, and addresses issues like impervious?
well, it says solar ordinance in the
Previous.
preceding sentence.
So I didn't know if you
so-
wanted, I know you want addressing change to addresses. I didn't know if you wanted solar in there to
I
make
don't
sure it
think,
was
I
clear.
think,
You don't think it's
I
needed?
think it's, yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
just
I see.
addressing to
See it at
addresses.
the end of the
Yeah,
sentence,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, that's the only ordinance that's mentioned in.
Okay,
And that's all, other than the dollar amount, I picked that up too, that's,
good catch.
yeah,
Thank you.
but, that's all, I think that's all.
Okay. Did anyone else have anything that they would like to change, amend, or question? Not hearing any, we'll take a vote. We'll vote to final approve the minutes as amended. All in favor? Six, against, abstain, none, 6-0-0, that passes. Thank you. Correspondence. I don't think I've had any correspondence. Does anyone else have any correspondence they want to share? Not hearing any, we'll go through comments. We'll start, as usual, with our select board member. Anything you want to share with us about? It doesn't have to be, but
No, we had a meeting Thursday, I was ill, so
glad
I
to
left
see you
halfway
feeling
through.
better.
So, is there anything, I can't recall anything that was,
There's always something. They've been working on draft warrant articles.
Oh, yeah, the
So
draft
they're
warrants.
reviewing those.
Okay.
Draft warrant articles. We talked about revenues. There was a discussion about revenues and the fund balance. I've talked to, which I will share with this board as well, but I've talked to the auditor and had asked them to come in and do a presentation to the select board. It's very hard to explain the fund balance. And so the auditor is going to draw up a document to see if that helps first. So I'll make sure I share that with this committee as well. Because it is hard to explain fund balances in money. It's not a given that you have that amount of money on hand. So I wanted to make sure we shared that.
Okay.
And the tax rate is not set yet. We did talk with the Department of Revenue yesterday. The school has submitted their documents, but there was an error, so they have to fix them and resubmit. I was hoping we'd have them done today, but we're still waiting.
So the good news is we don't have our tax bill. The bad news is the town's gonna run out of cash.
So I can't think of anything else from that meeting right now. Ben was there. Ben was there for a big substantial piece of it because we were talking about warrant
oh,
articles.
we did make a purchase.
Yeah, we did approve Ben to do a purchase on the air compressor replacement. It's a big purchase of about not big, I say big, $53,000. It's not as big as an engine.
Right.
But it is a substantial purchase. The air compressor does have to be replaced. And so we chose to replace it out of the equipment fund.
And interesting fact, we do have that piece of equipment does generate revenues
It
from
does,
surrounding
yeah.
communities that also use it.
Oh, okay.
And-
Oh, we
And
did
state
talk.
or, and fishing game.
We also talked about adjusting their costs for the areas that right now what they pay an annual fee. So we've talked about increasing it, and Ben's going to work on increasing their annual fee for using it, so.
And part of that was because the prior piece we got from a grant, so we couldn't charge them. We just do like a maintenance
I
fee.
think it was like, yeah,
Maintenance fee, but now we're actually purchasing a piece on our
Right.
own.
We want to amortize the cost of the equipment and get some of that back.
Yep.
Okay. All right, how about committee members? Joe, anything you want to comment on? Brian?
Good.
That's, no? Buzz, anything? I will take the opportunity just to share with you guys that when, this is just for your information, when we had the review with the non-municipal people, we had the Visiting Nurse Association in, and they told us they were selling the building. And then at a later date, they sent me an email and said, hey, we know that the school is looking for new office space and we're looking to sell a building. We want to be good community members. You know, does the town want to buy the building for school offices? And I wrote back to them and I said, we're part of a regional school district. The town and the schools are not the same. So I can tell you the town does not want to buy the building for school offices. But I don't think that the school district would be interested, but I will pass on the information so that they know about it. So when I saw Paul Harris at the meeting they held to correct the procedural defect, I told him. And I was in their office maybe about 10 days ago to deliver a check from one of the trust funds. And I talked to him and he said they are interested in the building and he is talking to the folks at the Visiting Nurse Association. So I don't know any details. I don't really understand how that building would work for them, but I'm just letting you know that part of the discussions that we have with people do ripple through the town and might actually we're, end up doing something good, so.
They've got to be careful, so I'm not sure. They have a contract.
Who has a contract?
The school has a contract right now, so they have to be careful about how much.
Information shared publicly.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're telling me I shouldn't be saying this in a public meeting?
A little bit of it maybe.
All right, so I messed up again. Sorry.
But, let me rephrase that, they were asked to look into all options, and they are. We've met with the school even about properties the town might own and about this building, and I took them up and showed them the space. And there's not gonna be enough room upstairs, but we did meet with them, we walked them through, because they've been asked to review all options. So when they come to town voting, they will have looked at everything that they can.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
I don't know all the details, and I wasn't trying to give you a final answer. I just was trying to share what I thought was good news, that in sharing information, we might have hooked up some people that will have both benefit, so.
What's the impetus for new space?
The SAU office.
The SA, there's two things. The staff is saying that they don't have enough space. So I think they say they have at least one, I think it's two, but they have at least one staff member who has an office in one of the schools, because they ain't fit them in the room. They don't have any real meeting space, they can't have any
Got it.
meetings there.
Okay.
The other thing is that they're in a building that they're leasing from TD Bank, and they know that situation is gonna change.
Sure.
So they're
There's a
nervous, and they're
third.
not sure what the future holds, even if they wanted to stay.
There's a third reason too, because the building they're in is going to need quite a bit of maintenance
Sure.
and renovations to it, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure. So that's it, I think, for members, staff. Christine, any comments you wanted to make that you haven't already? You jumped in on select board, so thank you for that.
Mine technically do not have a lot, I just thought I'd let you know for, information purposes that one of the towns has set their tax rate from three that withdrew. That's mine, and it went up $5.54 per thousand.
What was the increase, the
So,
percentage?
Just the whole increase is attributed to the new school district, period. So,
But I mean,
People are outraged.
did it
No
go,
way.
did it go up from 6 to 11? Did it go up from 20 to 25, or?
it went from $9 and something cents to $15.20.
So it went up
Still a good tax rate, mind you, but
But
in
it went up
one year,
50%.
it went up a huge increase, so, yeah.
I'm sorry. Did I say
Just for
wrong?
the school. It's just the school, nothing else
Oh, no,
increased.
but they were promised
Something
it
went down
didn't
2
happen.
cents because it saved me 2 cents. But it's technically, the school went up $5.56.
On the bright side, it looked like county went down.
Yeah, that's what saved.
That was
County went
good news for
down,
us.
and the
Yeah.
state school rate.
The state,
went
the
down.
SWAP?
Yeah, I think, I already know, I think our state school's gone down, not tax rate, but total bill, and the county is very minor increase, so. But our valuation will help probably offset that, because our valuation is substantial.
Right, the rate has to go down
should
because the
go down,
valuation went up.
So, it's just, we just don't know what the school's gonna be, so.
Okay.
But this is a brand new school district that can't apply also for the same discounts that, they can't get all of the grants or I think they can't, my understanding is they can't get all of those in the first year, so, that this school can get, so, yeah. My bill was a little painful. Yeah, my bill went up, over $1,000,
And just for anyone watching, and you live in
and that's
Groton.
just my bill, by the way. And it's not Bristol, I'm saying it again, so people know.
I was gonna say your name of your town, so that they know.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We do not know what the other two have done yet, we heard a
Hebron
rumor.
went up.
They didn't post anything yet.
Yeah, there's information out there.
See,
Someone's,
I've heard
a
of
friend
rumors.
shared a
Bridgewater
snip from a
did too.
page.
It was significant, wasn't it? Was hers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so Bridgewater also went up as That's what I've been told, but there's nothing posted anywhere yet, so. And if the rumor, Bridgewater's went up more than Groton's did, if the rumor is accurate.
Okay, well, thank you for letting us know.
Yeah, it's painful for me, but.
Bristol's a great town for this thing.
I know, I've been up there for so long.
So I think we're about ready. Before we adjourn, I had one more thing I wanted to do, is basically to talk about the next meeting. I want to let you know about the situation and make sure that somebody else doesn't have a better idea or any. There's going to be some issues with the library budget. And the library is trying to get all of their trustees and some other people to come to the meeting. So they said to me, we don't really want to show up at 6 o'clock and sit around for an hour until you get to the library. Can you arrange the agenda so that we have a better idea of when to show up? So what I'd like to do, what we normally do is start with the town clerk, tax collector section, and eventually get to the library. What I'd like to do is tell the library people to say show up at 7 o'clock. I don't think the town clerk, tax collector will take a whole 45 minutes, but then what we'll do is we'll go back and do some of the sections with Christina that we can to fill the time from whenever we're done with Cheryl to 7 o'clock, and then Karen Boyd, who's the chair of the library trustees, and Patty, who's the library director. And you all know that I am a library trustee, so I'm kind of included in that too. We'll show up and we'll do the library starting around 7. Does that work for everybody? Okay, so I'll ask, Shannon to put it in the agenda, and I'll let the folks at the library know that that's what we're planning to do next week. So just to clarify, just to go again, our next meeting is in a week from today, on Tuesday, 16th, here at 6 o'clock as normal. And we've got quite a list of things to go through, so that's normal. That's normally one of our big minutes. So that's it for me. Does anyone else have anything else before we adjourn? Someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn at 7:45.
Second.
Right, 7:46. Motion by Les, seconded by Scott. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you very much,
Christina,
folks.
do we want